Okay. What we're going to talk about tonight is social media and all the different aspects to do with trading. So it's a little bit of a fun topic tonight, I guess, just to kind of open your eyes to what's happening in the social media world, and especially Twitter. There's lots of different ways of approaching trading around Twitter, and I just thought it was an interesting kind of topical thing to write about and to do a presentation about. So before I start, the risk warning, remember that spread betting, CFD trading carry high risk or capital, resulting in losses that exceed your initial deposit. The amount will suit for everyone, so please ensure you fully understand the risks involved. The information currently provided here under no circumstances are considered an offer or solicitation to invest. Nothing here should be construed investment advice. The information provided is believed to be accurate, the data is produced. Again, educational only content of the webinar is personal opinion of the moderator, not trade.com. The content is not constitute financial investment tax advice. Trade.com is not accepted by the liability of the content encouragement in this session. Okay, so everything changes. So with the pace of the world and technology ever increasing, we have to accept that everything, including trading, spread betting, is susceptible to change. So many factors in social media that affect the market sentiment and how people trade. There's also a huge shift in how quickly people get information. And I don't mean just professional traders. I mean just that people on the street can get important information that was quite difficult to get hold of. Again, especially when I started to trade, I had to have a Bloomberg or Reuters feed, hugely expensive. The trading firms that I worked for would pay for subscriptions like the Philly Fed, so you made sure you got access to the conference call, quickly and timely. So all these kind of things, are very, very limited into what you get, and the actual speed in which information was given, you go back to old-fashioned phone calls and people texting people. If you wanted to get a heads up on the figure, then that's the way that, the people in the market would communicate. So everything changes these days, and information generally now is just a tweet away. So pretty much instantly, you can get access to any kind of information about the markets, about data, about releases, about rumors, about things that are happening in real time. If there's a major earthquake, for instance, somewhere in the world, you guarantee it's going to be tweeted before it's picked up by the news wires. So it's really important these days that we understand how sensitive information is and also how to trade it, because if more people are getting the information quicker, that's why we generally see these big spikes in the market where they go up and down and then they retrace a lot quicker, because a lot more people have access to what's actually going on. Social media and trading, if you listen to things like CNN Money, it seems that everyone in the investment industry is jumping on the Twitter bandwagon these days. So I hope they're going to spot a trend of some market moving data before the rest of the world catches on. Now this is the idea that people are trying to find what's happening in the markets just by looking at trends in Twitter. I don't know if I'm fully a believer in these kind of things, to be honest, because the people that are out there making money are out there making money. They're not out there tweeting about it. It's one of these things, if you can make money and you have a formula, you go out and you make money from it. You don't necessarily have to tell other people about it to sound important or to make money. So it's interesting that, though, how the media perceives it and how it picked up on this, and how everybody is always in trading is looking for that easy edge. So certain myths of social media trading. Now, with the snippet we saw, there's an example of the human nature, using technology and new technology to find an edge and attempt to find the holy grail of trading. Doesn't exist. Okay, it's going to exist that have happened by now. You can't just expect to jump on the trends of Twitter and find the perfect way to make money in the markets. Just as you can't find, a perfect trading system or something, that's 100% reliable. Everything takes interpretation, and everything takes a bit of effort on your part. If you're not willing to put the effort into trading, then how do you expect to be a good trader? You don't pick up a set of golf clubs and have one lesson, and then suddenly a Tiger Woods. So how would you think trading, one of the most complex and fast-moving industries in the world, will be any different? Okay, as I said, there's no 100% winning strategy. There's no one easy way to make money. Everything takes, a bit of effort. So taking the bias of millions of tweeters, it is a good idea. And it's also, again, you've got to make it relevant. You've got to make it relevant to the product you trade, to the bias, to the understanding. So in equation terms, Twitter times million of people divided by impact of tradable products would equal some sort of trading bias. But the amount of data you'd have to interpret and the speed of which then you'd have to apply it to the market, that's really where this kind of thing whole really falls down for me. We take the bigger picture. For reasons funds are set up, and the reason why funds are set up is because the profits are made from fees. So you saw a big advent of fees. It's not fees, sorry. funds come into existence, over the last 10 years. And that's because, people do sports betting funds, they do funds on gold. And you see them, again, people don't want to trade the products themselves. So they're happy, to give their money and let the performance be measured by somebody who they think's an expert. And the reason why people get funds set up is because it's a fairly low risk way of getting and attracting a lot of money. So when you have a lot of money like these gold funds, there's an obvious correlation why the number of gold funds, is decreased as the price of gold's gone down. Because people are much happier buying gold on the way up. People are much more happy in entrusting that gold's going up for a reason. So when gold goes down and people stop making the huge profits, then the amount of funds go down. So again, if you convince enough people to invest in your fund, regardless of profitability on performance, you're going to make money charging clients for a management fee. And this again, why this whole Twitter and social media trading type scenarios come around, it's because people can make money from it. So again, if you make bold statements like Twitter will give us an 80% edge in the markets, then with the popularity of social media, Twitter, stocks in general, then people are going to buy into the fact that if you can harness the Twitter trends and you can harness this into the markets, then we're going to have a good kind of edge in these things. So people will buy into a fund based upon, not a lie, but based upon the bigger sales pitch. Not that we're going to trade in social media funds, or we're not just going to trade in social media stocks. We're going to trade the markets based upon a social media bias. So once I read an article that someone, I read articles that someone got some venture capital because they looked like Mark Zuckerberg. Not because they had a great idea, not because, they had the next cutting edge piece of technology. They got investment because they looked like somebody who made billions of pounds. So that's how fickle the world is. When we come to talking about the financial products, selling financial products, then again, it goes down to keeping people's interest and keeping it relevant within the media. So funds and capital. So if you've got a fund with $1 million trying to trade the sentiment of a million of tweets, is this going to work? Well, it's something you can only do with a very specific model. You need to take an enormous amount of data processing power and evaluate tweets in real time to be able to, again, get that speed of execution and to harness the data that you've got. A parallel to putting a man on the moon, bear with me. Much of the advances in technology, costing billions of dollars came from the space race. People trying to, the Americans trying to beat the Russians. And again, these things then filter through to, the wider economy. So I do believe that, in the future, some of the advances we make in social media, some of the ability we have, to harness this mass, kind of huge data and to get the sentiment of people. Once enough people use, social media, and we can kind of break it down and make some relevance to that information, I'm sure that the advertising industry and, key advertisements and products and being able to profile people, just more effectively, that technology will get better as there is an edge in it. So I believe that with the more social media we use and the popularity of it, we will be able to profile people and advertise to people and give people what they want. But again, that will take time to filter through to the market. So therefore, if the top 0.01 of capital is trying to use Twitter or social media to make big money, then there has to be some, edge. There has to be something in it, for people with lesser ambitions. So again, it's all the things in life that when you spot a trend, it's already too late. But if you can, develop the ability to assimilate, huge amounts of data in real time and then make it have some relevance, then that's going to have some impact in the wider world. So I do believe that social media and being able to harness, vast sums of data and use it for a solid reason will have some play in the future. So how can we use Twitter, I guess, more than the other social media to trade? So like many things in trading, it's down to you finding your own strategy and finding the tools at your disposal to get an advantage. So explain the benefits of Twitter, okay, especially if you're trading, for trading, then it really is, again, Twitter's specifically a very, very different tool than Facebook. So Facebook's good for putting out charts, for putting out things of interest and grabbing people's attention. Twitter's much more about finding niches, finding people that have the same view or want to know about the same things as you do. So a lot of people don't get Twitter, okay, and that's understandable because generally if you've not got anything to say, then nobody's got any interest in you as a Twitter entity. But if you understand that people group together in Twitter, use the hashtag and use different ways of making sure that they're getting to the right audience, then Twitter's a lot more powerful than Facebook. Facebook, relies on social interaction and other people sharing your connections, whereas Twitter is much more targeted. You can make sure that the right kind of people find, an audience or a voice for what you're trying to say. And people don't get that because generally, people tweet about, I had this for breakfast. Well, nobody cares. Nobody has any interest in what you have for breakfast. But if you've got something to say about the footsie and you've got something to say about its direction and it might make people some money, then you can find the right people by using Twitter in the right way. And this is something I've done a lot of research in. I've developed a lot of software around. So how to use Twitter? Well, there are a few reasons why Twitter is good to understand, when its application comes to trading. Number one, speed. With mobile technology, it's pretty much instant. It's quicker than any other news source that I know. Regulation. There is no regulation. So there's no quality control and there's no barrier to entry. That is not always a good thing, but it means you can get something very, very quickly. Now, when it comes to Twitter, you've got the hashtag, which people mostly understand, but then the dollar sign, which people don't understand. If you use a dollar sign in front of key phrases, keywords, or key financial symbols, then this is a financial only Twitter. Okay, that's tweets that go out to people who are looking for just financial information. This was brought about by StockTwits, which is the very well-known trading site, and they actually introduced the dollar sign to Twitter because there was such a big demand for it. So trends, now these are sentiments generated by the masses, and being in the club. There's some information that never leaves the Twitter sphere. So if you don't have a Twitter account, again, for me, a lot of things I put out on Twitter, if you don't follow me on Twitter, you'll never get to know. You might never know that I have got a blog. You've never got an insight to my trading signals, my different services that I offer. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, there's certain things that I just won't bother putting on other types of social media because it isn't relevant. So once you understand who puts the information on Twitter and the relevance they have on the markets, the sooner you can either discount it or act upon it. There are certain people on Twitter who are just muppets. There are absolutely no point in listening to what they say. They have no value in the market. They have nothing to say. But if you follow people and you interact with people that do have something to say and do have some relevance, then you've got some benefit coming from that source of information. As I said, the speed for me is the absolute key point to Twitter. So mobile devices, Wi-Fi, constant connectivity, the world's online 24/7. So that means the transference of data on real-time events is almost instantaneous. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's an earthquake, doesn't matter if it's a piece of data, doesn't matter if it's someone that, someone's just seen something happen out of the ordinary. Anything can be shared instantaneously. And as I said, with the little regulation, that does hold questions to its validity, but also in the same time means that you get it as quickly as anybody else does. So it's good for news quotes, leaked comments. Pay or subscription data is a big market on the Twitter front, and real-time events like natural disasters or, God forbid, a terrorist attack. So if you're going to be informed on Twitter by the people and news agencies you follow, again, it's one of the first mediums that people will turn to because they know that it's quick. 140 characters, anybody can type that on the move. So if you want to get something to your audience, to your markets quickly, then definitely Twitter is the way forward. So regulation, as I said, there's very little regulation and very little accountability. I could put anything on Twitter tomorrow and there'd be very little comeback. You obviously see these, posts where, silly little girls say they're going to bomb airlines and, there's a fallback from that. But realistically, you could put anything, and it's just taken as opinion. I could say, I think the FTSE is going to collapse tomorrow due to Putin's comments. And, people might take that on board, people might not. So again, that's entirely down to you for your interpretation. So obviously benefits and drawbacks to all these things. So a benefit is that people are more likely to give away sensitive information. If there's no comeback and there's no real regulation, then people can let things slip they normally wouldn't. You can gauge credibility from the response to retweets and people favoriting them. If a tweet goes out and nobody, there's no interaction with it, no forwarding, then it can be quite quickly discounted. So agencies and freelance journalists also can tweet independently. The majority of journalists I know and producers, they'll say this is my own opinion. This is not necessarily affiliated with the company I work for. But again, these are the people in the know. If you have Kate Adie on Twitter and she comes across and says something, then yeah, that's going to be more important than somebody not in the news world saying something. And again, what was once for the privileged is now for the masses. So again, as I said, I used to pay thousands of pounds a month for Bloomberg and Reuters feeds. I don't need to anymore. I can follow the feeds on Bloomberg themselves, or I can guarantee that somebody I know will put something from Bloomberg on a tweet, and it will be pretty much as they see it. So the time lag is very, very small. Drawbacks are obviously the opposite. So you have no way of verifying tweets or data. Twitter statistics can be manipulated. You can buy services on the internet very, very cheaply where likes, forwards are farmed. I've tested it out myself. It does work. Every journalist has a disclaimer on their Twitter account, so you don't necessarily have that ability to get that undisclosed information you think so popular. And again, if it's really good, then generally you have to pay for these things. So if it's good quality information, you probably have to subscribe and pay somebody. So going back to the hash signs and the dollar signs, what do they mean? Well, these are symbols that allow Twitter to categorize posts and tweets to identify what is trending. So for example, if we're talking about the price of gold, you might think it's falling and it will remain going down, but then you want to comment to ask people's opinion, if you should sell gold. Well, that's fine, and all you can do this in Twitter terminology is very, very quickly. But what you have to do is be concise and understand that you have to write this in a certain way and allow people to target the comments and answer back to your question. So if you're going to tweet, then there's two things you need to look about. Think about, looking at the hashtags and the dollar signs to pick out your target audience. So hashtag is used to talk about a popular topic, but the dollar sign is used to denote a financial instrument. So if you want to tweet into the world and say, I think in the hashtag commodities, a broad sense, this week, the hashtag gold, which brings it up, dollar gold, which is the financial signal, will continue to drop from 1279.13 is my trading target for this week. Hashtag retweet. Then in that one sentence, okay, within your 140 characters, you're getting 5 opportunities to speak to people who are interested in commodities, into trading, people that will forward your opinion, people that are interested in gold and the financial product gold. Okay, so what you're targeting is people that have got a specific view on gold, silver, general commodities, people that specifically want to trade around the gold, that might be jewelry, might just be general, people that want to specifically trade the financial term gold, trading, as its entity, then a retweet asking for people to interact with what you've said. So all of a sudden, rather than putting, I want to trade gold, is it a sell? You're targeting 5 different areas and groups on Twitter that will give you some sort of answer and feedback on what you've just said. So then how to search for answers. If you want to see the search results, what market and people are talking about, and people that are saying, the same approach as you, then again, use the hashtag search with this prefix about general topics, and then use the dollar sign, again with that prefix, to find financial products and people that are talking about that financial product. So again, it's something that I use in my tweets all the time. I generally find I get 2 different types of interaction if I only use hashtags than when I use the dollar sign. The dollar sign is purely looking for people. And again, people troll Twitter, people look through Twitter for important or influential people around, this dollar sign. So the dollar sign, try it sometimes and include that in your tweets. And you should be interested to see you get a different audience replying to what you say. So trends. So trends are not necessarily the best tool for trading with Twitter. They're generally about trends with people watching generic things like Coronation Street or talking about things that are popular like London. And that's because a lot of people are just sat there with the day-to-day chit-chat using, Twitter to talk about Britain's Got Talent or things that are, aren't really of use within the financial markets, that's for sure. But that's what people do. People like to talk about things, get instant validation by talking about meaningless events like TV programs. But, that's what it's designed for, I guess. I can't really knock it. It's, what people do. I like to follow BBC Question Time sometimes and do a hashtag and talk about, what's being said. So it does have its place. But we're talking about the market and we're talking about trading, then we need to use that dollar prefix. Now, again, as I say, it was invented by StockTwit in order for people to tweet more effectively, in the trading realm. So it's all about that quality versus quantity, okay? Quantity of information on Twitter is huge, but we need that quality. So by using that dollar sign prefix, we can cut through what we want to find out and what we want to target much more readily than we can by using the more generic hashtag. So the Twitter Club, like everything to do with trading, it's just one tool. You have to have a balanced approach when you're using any kind of media and information. Just because I say Twitter's a good source of information, which it is, doesn't mean it's the only one. So you have to use the trusted media sites. I mean, look at the blogs, look at the updates, look at what's being said on the Financial Times, on Reuters, FX Street, What's Investment, Huffington Post, Bloomberg. All these things are put down because I've been featured in them, so I know they work. I've written for all of these, so you check out these with a hashtag. So follow at Reuters, follow at Bloomberg. These things will give you the insight, but there might be some snippets. There might be, again, Facebook is quite popular for Financial Times. They like to put things down and articles that might not be instantaneously, but might be good for you to read and just get a bias. So all these things, again, have their place. So the established media you can't get away from. Okay, this is lagging data and it's not real time, but the credibility and the trusted, nature of things like Bloomberg you can't get away from. If I want to check what's happening in the news, I'll read the top news stories, but I'll look at the markets and generally it'll say US stocks gain. I'll look at the markets and they're down. So remember, it's lagging, but it's quality information. Again, things like the Financial Times, can't get away from it. People like the FT have been around for a long time. The FT is why we've got the FTSE 100. The Financial Times 100 is by the news agency, the Financial Times. Okay, so it has a massive effect on what it says and what its longer-ranging influence within the market is. So really, to overview, Twitter is the best way to get fast information in news. But obviously, you have to understand and balance out what's credible and trusted from the non-trusted sources. So always have your own opinion and understand any information and event will take time to filter through the markets, regardless of what it is or who says it. But again, it's down to you to trade that. Facebook's more like a lagging indicator. It takes time to things to be posted on Facebook. It's generally more picture orientated. But again, balance out the bigger picture. For anything breaking news-wise, it's probably going to appear on somebody's Twitter or Facebook feed before it comes across the major wires. That's what makes it important. So news and data sources, again, weigh it up. There needs to be a connection with your trading strategy. If you want to trade the news and data, know where to get it from, or more importantly, who you can trust. You can trust Financial Times because they are accountable. You can't necessarily trust what's said on Facebook and Twitter. So remember, Twitter and social media always be quick but not reliable. Established journalists will release things on Facebook and Twitter but might take more time. And again, if you want to see something on an official site, it'll take even more. Make sure you balance that out. Okay, so a bit of a fun topic tonight, guys. About social media. I think the main thing we can take away from that is use Twitter, but use it in the right way, and definitely use the dollar sign. That's something that I've found very, very useful in the past. Any questions, guys? Anything you'd like to ask? Any thoughts on that? Again, it's meant to be a bit light-hearted. I mean, some of the presentations they do are very in-depth, very kind of, intense with the fundamentals or the technicals or like candlesticks, trading scenarios. This is meant to be just a bit of an eye-opener, just to give you a thought of how people are using social media and how it really is, affecting our lives on a day-to-day basis, and not just for people talking and ranting about, things that are happening in their lives, but much more importantly, proper financial institutions, proper traders trying to pick trends out of things, things that really do mean things within the markets.